Hello everyone. In this lesson we're going to speak much about text. This topic is infinite, but I'll try to give you the most useful information for a short period of time, from my own experience and also what I've learned, read and watched while I was preparing this lesson. So let's go. The text is one of the main ways to convey information to the viewer, and in design it's the strongest tool to enrich the perception and to unite the visual and the informative parts of your product. A skillfully designed text on a beautiful background will become the icing on the cake of your project. And on the opposite, if you don't know the laws and rules of typography, you can bring to nothing all the work done. The text can be the main hero of the composition. It can be lively, consonant, it have its character and the power of persuasion. It can be a supporting actor, assisting the main idea or form, being both the form and the voice of the frame. It can be a small, subtle element of design, but its function is always meaningful. It plays an essential role in solving any problem. Let's divide into the basic terms to split this topic to the clear-eyed understanding. We'll find out the main notions and speak one language. Typography is the art of designing a typed text based on some rules which are suitable for a particular language using typing and page makeup. On the one hand, typography is a part of graphic design, and on the other hand, it's a set of strict rules on using different fonts to make the text the clearest for the reader. The typeface's typography is a set of one or several fonts in one or several sizes and designs. Such fonts within a typeface have the same stylistics and have a definite set of typographic signs. These terms are often mixed, typeface and font. The difference between them is that a font makes featured of a particular member in a font family, for example a blackface or italics, and a typeface makes the same style of a whole font family. Typefaces are divided into two main classes with many subgroups. The first class is Antiqua, fonts with serifs which serve as pure decorations in the written European languages. Some experts say in long text it's easier to read fonts with serifs because serifs hold the line, but the investigations on this point are uncertain if it is true. Antiqua typefaces are very seldom used in the modern design, mainly for historical or retro projects. The second class is the sans serif typeface. Fonts without serifs, people started to use them in the 19th century. They look more up to date, and today the most popular and the most widely spread fonts are sans serifs. The type size is the height of the letter including all the top and the bottom elements. Line spacing is the vertical distance between lines of text. Kerning is the spacing between letters in a line. All the items on VideoHive can be divided into 5 categories. I'll list them in a random order regardless of their popularity, quantity, or other features. The first one is presentations. It includes corporate, UI, UX, and web presentations and interactive presentations which are not created on VideoHive, but they can come soon. The second category is broadcast packs, news, packs for entertaining programs, fashion, kids channels, YouTube, and so on. As a rule, they're big packs with a complete set for broadcasting or webcasting. The next category is infographics, HUD, and different elements for design studios. The fourth category is openers, promo and event videos, short intros, and so on. It's the largest and the most popular category among authors and buyers, and the last category in titles. It's also big and popular and the closest to this lesson. Let's discuss each category in detail. Presentations. One frame contains one text block, as a rule, but sometimes exceptions can be made. Each block contains a small heading and a text description. Don't include too many words into the heading. Usually it's a big font, an important remark, or a phrase aimed at attracting the viewer's attention. The heading shouldn't be too long, 2-3 words at the most. Some words in the heading can be highlighted with a color or a bold line to emphasize the meaning. The text description is much smaller in size, mostly about 1/3 to the heading, so the description text is 3 times less than a heading. It must be readable and contain as much information as you can read for 5 to 6 seconds. It's the duration of a slide in a corporate presentations. The character of your font should match the style of your presentation. Usually corporate, web, and UI/UX presentations have a strict minimalist style. The fonts are always sans serif, with strict straight lines of the same thickness. Don't use many fonts in one shot. It's distracting, destroying unity, and making a mess of the composition. It's better to use no more than 3 font faces. They can be both from one or different typefaces. For example, Lato typeface contains a big variety of different font faces. You can use Lato Black in the heading and Lato Light or Regular in the description text. When you choose the font thickness and color, keep in mind that the text must be readable both full screen and in a small preview window or in the YouTube or Vimeo player. The correct number of characters in each line can also make your text more readable. If a text block is placed on the left or on the right of the shot, then the number of characters within a line must not exceed 40 units. If a description text is placed at the top or at the bottom of the composition, you shouldn't put more than 60 characters in a line. Always keep the text level. Use the guiding lines to match the beginning of the heading text with the beginning of the description text. The line spacing shouldn't be too small. Let the reader keep an eye on the text lines. A small distance makes us feel uncomfortable. When you extend the line spacing, you make the text more readable even if you lose some useful screen space. Remember that different fonts need a different line spacing, mainly because of letters height. As a rule, for easy reading, the line spacing should be 30% higher than the symbol height. In this case, the top and the bottom kerns don't overlap each other and the line looks perfect. Put tracking at 0. It's a standard for the optimum spacing between letters. But if letters still overlap each other within the line, you should raise it. Text alignment. Very often text blocks are aligned incorrectly. When the text is right aligned, centered, or aligned to width. In all these cases, the text is uncomfortable to read and it doesn't look beautiful. The text in corporate presentations should always be left aligned. Even if you are eager to align it to the right margin because it seems to be okay, remember, that's wrong. Except for the cases when 1 or 2 short sentences are subheadings for the main text, or when the text is tagged to geometric forms or design elements. Text block placing depends on the shot composition and animation, but you can easily see some consistency in the references of our colleagues, web designers. If it's a strict corporate presentation, most often we have 4 main variants of placing the text block. On the left of the main composition character, on the right, at the bottom, and at the top. The text block shouldn't be too heavy and outweigh the main part of composition. There should be enough free space around the block. It should be placed symmetrically to the other parts of the composition. Use title action safe as a guidance for correct text placing. Title action safe is nominal shot borders in cinema that restrict the guaranteed display area of the subject information. Let's talk about color. Choosing the font color take into account the background for the text. Don't use colors close in brightness and saturation from the clashing color ranges. The more notable the text, the faster the viewers can see and read it. It's very important for the customer of your templates how the information is presented to the final user. If he doesn't have enough time to read the text of a corporate presentation, or if reading is tiresome for his mind and eyes, he can stop watching your preview and turn to searching among other authors' works. It's better to add other signals to the color to highlight the important information. The heading text is always larger. That's why it looks nice with a gradient made from the neighboring colors, for example dark green with blue or pink with orange. Today gradient is the most popular color solution, but it's not a strict rule. A good solid white color often looks better on a gradient or simply dark background. The description text color always depends on the background color, and the main rule here is to make it more readable. There are different ways to animate text, but all of them are divided into three types. First, appearing letter by letter. Never use it in corporate presentations, because this animation is too detailed. It will distract the reader's attention from the text meaning. Second, animation word by word. It's perfect for the heading appearing. The best animation solution in this case is fade plus position. The words are coming one by one through transparency and movement. The transparency adds softness, and displaying by position creates an additional movement in the frame. Don't use text appearing in headings through scaling and rotating. They are more aggressive ways of animation aimed at more dynamic ways of usage. In corporate videos, information shouldn't have sudden frightening splashes. The third way is a line-by-line animation. It's exactly for the description text. As it's several times longer than the heading text, a word-by-word appearing would be too long and would make the text animation too dense. That's why the only way here is a line-by-line animation. The mode is the same, fade plus position. The direction of the text moving depends on the text location, but it has almost no essential limits. You can animate the text from the top, from the bottom, from the right, or from the left, but never do it diagonally and from the end of the sentence. We read from the left to right and from top to bottom, and this way of reading sets the text appearing animation. Text content. In this case, we also have a choice of several variants. The first and the easiest one is using a dummy text fitted in the content blocks, lorem ipsum, and so on. It's pretty easy and fast. The second variant takes a bit more time, but it has a semantic load. Place the information about what's going on the screen into the headings and description text, or describe the project features. In my projects, I combine both ways. I write a text on the presentation theme in the heading and point the project features in the description text. For example, the heading About Me, the description text is the following. Create your own video presentation for a website or YouTube channel using this template. Or, tell about your business or event, change the text, font, insert your photos or videos. The project is multi-purpose. This way you show the buyer how his presentation can look like and tell about the project features. If you use 2 or 3 text blocks within one shot, don't put a description text. 2 text blocks are 2 headings or 2 interim variants of text appearing in the shot one by one, usually from left to right or from top to bottom. The text should always be in a separate composition of the project. Try not to divide the heading and the description text into different pre-comps. Leave them in one composition. It will save the customer from confusion when editing the project. If a project has a modular structure, give the number of the module in the composition title, and if one module contains several text blocks, enumerate them with the next number after a low line. For example, in the fourth module, you have two texts. Name the composition this way: text underline 4 underline 1, then text underline 4 underline 2. Here, 4 points at the module of the composition and 1 and 2 are just ordinal numbers of the text. I also advise you to leave the guidelines in the compositions with text as a main guide for editing the text. Broadcast design on VideoHive can be divided into two categories. The first one, new packs, including sports news, thematic and authorial packs, and packs for graphic departments. And the second category is packs for entertaining channels, YouTube channels, beauty and fashion blogs, and TV channels. Of course, there are broadcast identity packs, but they are seldom used on VideoHive because they are too highly specialized and have a very narrow target audience. These two categories are much different. In news bumpers, the text design depends on the concept. Such projects look majestic, significant, and they are stylized as glass with elements of metal, wood, or plastic. To show the majesty of constructions and forms, big details and elements are refined with small details and text. As a rule, they are not read. The aim of such elements is to refine the geometry and the shot itself. The character and the content of such texts must combine with concept of the project by the meaning. If we show weather, then the small elements can imagine it in icons, figures, small comments on weather, counter registers, diagrams imitating instruments' responses, and so on. If we show sports or political news, the geometry is complicated with thematic phrases on sports and politics. Very often the small elements can look like several text blocks imitating news or press headlines, websites or app screenshots. The final shot with the program title is always a big smooth text styles with some material. It's almost always a strict, grotesque, sometimes with a slight lean to add some aggression and pressure. In exceptional cases, the font may come from the Antiqua family, for example, if this program or template is connected with art, music, or history. The peculiarity of such projects for VideoHive is that the text should be easy to edit, so the geometry shouldn't be tied to defined symbols or words. It limits the range of visual solution in a way. News broadcast packs include many graphics elements, openers, bumpers, transitions, titles for the newscasters, live broadcasts, interviews, weather forecasts, maps, and so on. The common feature of these elements is text blocks in separate boxes and plates. Arranging the text in such plates depends on its aim, volume, and importance. While working at such templates, take into account the size of the plate, the distance between its edges and the text, location, texture, color, transparency, and the stylistic feature of the plate, the readability of the text, and its volume. The arrangement of text in the plate is marked by the first capital letter. The distance between the edge of the plate above and on the left and the first pixel of the capital letter must be the same. Usually it doesn't exceed one symbol size, but it strongly depends on the quantity of the text. The smaller is the text, the smaller is the plate and the distance from the plate edge to the first symbol as well. If you try to make a text plate yourself, taking this in account, you'll make sure that in other variants either the text will be too close or, in the opposite, the plate will be too large. But there is an exception. If there are icons or infographics on the plate, then the distance from the edge of the plate to the first symbol depends on the case. Broadcast packs for entertainment programs have a different aim and character. As a rule, the design, the dynamics of animation, and the choice of fonts depend on the channel-specific features. The text type depends on the content. It's mainly announcements or separate blocks with titles. In such projects, they don't use blocks with a lot of symbols. The text is always large. The arrangement of the text depends on the arrangement of the placeholder, the main character of the composition. In this case, the text plays a secondary role. If it's a bumper, the text will always be the main hero of the composition. Pay special attention to the way the text block is arranged. It shouldn't go beyond the boundaries of safety. Stay away from the edge of the shot, inside the frame. Title action safe. Almost every shot has one typeface with 2-3 font different in thickness, size and color. Such solutions help to make the image more vivid and attract the viewer's attention, putting accents on the most important words or phrases. The text plays a great role in such projects. Sometimes a work has a simple aesthetic design, but the text you skillfully use makes it incredibly attractive and interesting. There are no limitations on colors. These are maybe all features of the text in this category. Infographics, HUD, and small elements. Infographics in a section of corporate presentations, that's why it's made according to the same principles, but taking into account the arrangement and forms of the elements. Text is used not only in the headings but also as an additional explaining block or several blocks with the name of some parameter and a separate explanation. Text can be outside or inside the form. In this case, the text alignment depends on a geometry of this form. For example, if a complex form is surrounded with several text blocks, then line alignment can go both on the left or on the right side to enhance symmetry and direct the viewer's attention to the most important part of the shot. The same for the variants when the text is under a symmetrical form or above it. Text reveal animation in such projects must be smooth and consistent, without sudden movements to keep the attention to the information on the slide. In small elements and holographic interfaces, the text usually looks like long data paragraphs, lines of codes and numbers. Pay attention to the fonts. It's grotesque, often stylized as interfaces of the future. The text is mainly small and you can't read it because of many details. But it's not necessary, because in this case text is an element of design first of all. There are much more variants to animate such text, from a letter-by-letter decode to the reveal of the whole text through glitch. The only limitation is to avoid rotation. Openers, promos, event videos, short intros, and so on. It's the biggest and the most popular category on VideoHive. Their structure is pretty similar. As a rule, openers include a logo or a greeting text in the beginning, the main part, placeholders and titles, and the final part, a logo, and a company website. The visual part depends on the target audience and doesn't have any limitations. Several topics as an example: corporate promo or intro, event promo for business conferences, music or sport events, online shop or company, startup promo, fashion event, and so on. Work with text in such projects strongly depends on the stylistics and the topic of the project. If it's fashion, we write about fashion. If it's an event, we point dates, time, names, and topics. Text blocks are often arranged in separate dynamics boxes or plates to make them easy to read. Most often such projects include small text blocks or separate words, which is connected with the high dynamics of animation. The line alignment depends on the composition features and doesn't have strict limitations. You can use any fonts. Short phrases shouldn't have quotes and punctuation marks. If you need a comma, you'd better change the phrase. In event videos, authors often use a speaker's name and position. In such cases, the rules are very simple. The position is written in one word and stands higher than the name, but the font size is much smaller. Then goes the name. It must stand below the position as it consists of several words and you can read it longer, but the font size is much bigger because a person is more important than a position. In the titles for feature films, documentaries, and authors' programs, the rules are the same. Promos for shops, restaurants, and services have a lot of text blocks as a rule. The amount of text depends on the image in the shot. If you put some food in the shot, use the typeface to draw the viewer's attention to the most important information. Mark it with the font size, color, and thickness. For example, the price is always bigger, thicker, and brighter. The features of other blocks shouldn't compete with the most important information, and the whole text must match the chosen stylistics. Such projects have a lot of information. That's why the dynamics shouldn't be too fast. If you don't have enough time to read all the text, delete some text. Corporate promos are often bought to convey important information by a speaker. In such cases, the text may be used as a design element. The speaker gives the main information to the viewer and the designer duplicates important words or phrases through the video. These phrases are much bigger than the rest of the text, as they enhance the perception and impress the viewer most of all. In one phrase, words can have different font thickness within one typeface or can be marked with a color to attract special attention. The rest of the text is much smaller and is used as a design element, filling the frame and creating a feeling of an information space. You can use handwritten schemes and diagrams imitating notes in a notebook. It's an excellent variant of using text as a design element. In this category, animation has no restrictions, but depends in general on the character and dynamics of animation in the project. For example, in stomps, the high dynamics restrict the time for a text reveal to 1 second. That's why the text reveals as a full shot together with the background and has a small animation of symbols to the music bit. The text includes just 1 or 2 words. The reason is the same, a high speed of animation. The rest of the projects are less dynamic and have more text blocks. The main rule here is the same, to let the viewer calmly read the text and understand the meaning. Let's have a look at one of the projects in this category. An interesting feature of this template is plenty of text used not only as a title to the placeholder but also as a design element. The space is filled with text blocks. All the elements are arranged along the z-axis, and the camera is a kind of walking in the space, stopping at the pictures with text. It's a great idea, the video is splendid, but it has many mistakes in typography. The first shot, the title of the project, is put into quotes. In this case, it's incorrect. Here you shouldn't take into quotes the only word marked with a plate. But if you remove quotes, you should make the plate a bit smaller because it becomes bulky. In the second shot, the main character of the composition is the image of a man. The text plays a secondary role and explains who is depicted on the photo. The text takes too much space and the text block's arrangement is wrong. The red plate with the title Geophysicist must reveal first and should be placed above the name. It's a short word and you can read it fast. The highlighted letters Geo is a pretty doubtful idea, as the accents are usually put in separate words within a phrase, and highlighting separate letters within one word is incorrect, even if it's a compound word. Then goes the plate with a name and a surname. It's better to make it a bit smaller, but it should be much bigger than the position. The next block is not intended to be read. It's an element of design, a separate quote, and the important phrases are highlighted with a red color. It also should be much smaller, so as not to distract the viewer from the photo and the main text block. Compositions with small blocks filling the space of the shot imitate text columns from a book or magazine. Antiqua with serifs holds the line. The line spacing is correct, but the text alignment should go on the left. Kinetic typography and projects consisting of text only. It's a very popular project category on VideoHive. Their specific feature is completely no placeholders or just a few placeholders and compositions for pictures or videos. In this case, text plays the main role in the composition and takes the most advantageous place. You can use both Antiqua and Helvetica. The most popular one is a thick font with separate highlighted words within a phrase. Text blocks can take the central place in the shot, be highlighted with frames and dynamic plates. In kinetic typography, one text block can consist of words different in size, color, and font thickness within one typeface. The dynamic and the way the text reveals depend on the author's idea and the musical accompaniment of the video. The information is given step by step, and during the animation the words already read can be placed vertically, and the whole text is being gathered into complex forms. In corporate style, there's a word-by-word animation, and very seldom it's letter-by-letter. Line animation is not used because phrases don't get over one line as a rule. Kinetic typography has a great range of visual solutions. A text can have a rough texture, patterns and gradients, an extrude and a shadow for creating volume. Vintage badges also relate to the titles. Such projects are full of drawn elements. The fonts can be used from different typefaces. You can combine handwriting fonts, Antiqua and Grotesque at the same time. You can stretch words using the letter spacing with design elements of symmetry. The animation has no strict limitations. And few words about licenses and the choice of fonts. Fonts can be paid, free, or shareware. Paid fonts can be used in VideoHive projects. It's against rules. A buyer can change the font, but when choosing a project, he will consider exactly the font used in the video preview. Free fonts can be a system or non-system. You can use them in any way in any project as you wish. Using shareware fonts is possible if you follow the terms implied by the author. Usually it includes two fonts from one typeface, thin and black, without other variants. The usage rules can be different. Usually it's a personal, non-commercial use or placing a link to the authors in project description. Popular fonts quickly become out of date because of the frequent use, but the design does not stand still. The community is developing, and every day we see talented authors who open new beautiful forms to the world. The most convenient place to find such new products is Behance. Write font free and choose the best designers' works from the whole world. Choosing a font, study the usage terms. Usually they are pointed out on the presentation page or in the main file of the project for the download. If you have doubts on using font, feel free to ask questions to the author. After uploading your project, give a link to the font in the help file. Choosing a font take into account the common trends of the day, analyze new events in the profession, the latest successful projects, and the bright changes in the community. Font design is the most invisible and yet the most responsible work in graphic design and visual communications. Creating symbols, encoding, and transmitting information is a high-level mastery. Now, I'd like to name free and shareware fonts popular and frequently used by the moment this lesson is written. Headings: Grotesque, Unisens, Next Abibas, Gilroy, Moon, Leto, Big John, Slim Joe. Somatic: Antiqua, Forum, Clinics Lab. For description text, grotesque is Roboto, Leto, Rubik. The same forms for Antiqua as Forum and Clinics Lab. Tools for working with text. There are many tools for working with text. I'll list only those ones I use myself. First, WhatFont is a browser extension for Google Chrome that defines the font used on the web page. Using this extension, you can check the fonts just pointing the cursor at them. If you click the font with the left mouse button, you'll see more detailed parameters, from the size to the color. It's very simple. There is one more wonderful pack for text animation. Presets pack from Mr. Horse, 2D text present pack for animation composers. It works as a full plug-in for After Effects, having its own browser that shows the chosen preset before usage. You can mark the most often used options as selected ones, change the amplitude of motion and the speed of animation. This marvel costs $59. It's distributed under a tool license, has a support and updates. This tool may be used by VideoHive authors, and the animation will also work in the customer's project, even if he hasn't installed this plugin. And the third tool is all the presets for animation visual effects for text you can buy on VideoHive. The rules are the same. You buy it under a tools license. By the way, this category has no other licenses. And use it for your templates as you wish. As a conclusion, I'd like to add that this lesson is not a code of strict laws which can be broken. There are no laws in design, were not and will not be. There are recommendations, advice, life experience. There are 10 main mistakes and 7 golden rules, and no laws. If design was a science, and design is the same science as chess is a sport, we could have said, things are going to be this way and no other way. But design, just like any other kind of creative work, art, creativeness, like any other way some people communicate with the others, like a language, like an idea, will beat any laws. Artemy Lebedev, a Russian designer.